Hi, I'm Amy Coutts, and I'm an actor, hypnotherapist, and the founder of Acting with Courage Hypnotherapy. And in this series, I will be interviewing some fantastic actors, writers, directors, producers, anyone involved in the creative arts. And I will be asking them how and why they got into their respective careers and the advice that they offer to other creatives to look after their mental health and well-being. Hello and welcome to this episode of Why This. My guest today is Scottish actor and acting coach Adam Coutts. A proud resident of Aberdeen, Adam trained at Rose Bruford College in London and has since gone on to work with the likes of National Theatre Studio, National Theatre of Scotland and Payne's Plough. As a coach, Adam has a passion for passing on his knowledge and expertise from 10 years in the industry. He started Unstoppable Acting Studio in May of 2020 with the aim of helping others around the world to make an impact with their acting careers and to support people in becoming the best actor they can possibly be. Okay, hello Adam Coutts, how are you today?
I'm doing very well, Amy Coutts. I'm doing fine. Yourself?
Well, but I think before we begin, we should address this. So you might have heard that we have the same name. It's spelt the same, it's pronounced the same. We're both kind of surprised to meet another Coutts, but we aren't relatives, are we, Adam? I don't believe, unless we went right back.
No. I mean, yeah, if you dive right back into the ancestry, I don't know, I believe we all come from a valley in Ethiopia and we're all related at some point or something, but not related that we know of. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, true. So we'll just put that out there right now in case anyone thinks it's just a pure coincidence that I came across Adam and his wonderful, unstoppable acting studio. So my first question to you is, Adam, why? Why did you start that?
Yeah, it's quite a pertinent question, really. I guess it does stem from the situation that we're currently in. We're currently in August 2020, 5 months into the COVID-19 situation. And I started this back in May with just the idea of like, how can I offer value to people? I felt I'd been in the industry for a little while. There was a lot of sort of knowledge and experience I could pass on to people, but also I felt that really there was going to be starting to be a real shift and change as to how the industry might be. I feel there was a lot of barriers in place before this situation happened, right? For people to make their entry points into the industry. Agents, casting directors, be it how to get your first auditions and things like that. And I actually feel what this situation has done is it's crumbled a lot of like the institutions that were maybe there because they've been there for a number of decades, and nobody's thought to change or challenge certain things, And I could actually see that, well, I think the industry is starting to shift and change, and that like everybody should have access to, gaining skills as an actor, gaining techniques as an actor, and also looking and seeking opportunities as an actor as well. And yeah, I kind of, all those melted into a big pot and decided, well, I'm going to start going on social media, start to talk a little bit more about the craft and share some videos and things, and hopefully support and help people in their mission and what they want to do,
Yeah, and it's so interesting. You talk about the barriers that existed before, and people do seem to be talking about that now and making entry points into the industry and possibly how the industry might break wide open. One of the reasons I wanted to talk to you today, Adam, is because if anyone hadn't worked out, Adam is a wee bit Scottish, and you are based in Aberdeen, is that correct?
I am, yes, Aberdeen, Scotland, up in the northeast coast, yeah.
How did you get into acting originally?
Originally, yeah, up in the northeast coast of Scotland. I guess there's not a huge tradition for getting into the acting industry from this area. It is getting much, much better. Certainly in the 90s, when I went to school and I was a student and things, it just wasn't the done thing. And especially at the school I went to, which was, lovely school, but it was a bit of a rougher school, I mean, it was just not the expected thing that you get into performing arts and drama and stuff like that. I got dragged into my school drama department by a mate who was a little bit older because I think they needed to fill a part. There was a part missing for this nativity thing they were doing, and he dragged me in, sort of kicking and screaming, and I did it, and I got a response from the audience. I felt that sort of family feel you get as being part of a cast, and also I was incredibly shy. Like before that, I was like, quite introverted and things, and it really brought me out of my shell. And I just thought, wow, this is pretty magical. Actually, this is a great feeling. Luckily, I had a really supportive drama teacher who really pushed me on, and like I did some scripts that I'd written and things, and he took that and he was like, right, we're taking this to Edinburgh Fringe Festival. So from this tiny like drama department in a pokey little school in the northeast coast of Scotland, I then moved to doing something at Edinburgh Fringe Festival and started to realise that, hey, I can do this. This is something that is attainable and reachable to me. And I guess the more I got into it and the more performances that I saw, I used to think that acting was a thing for other people, something that other people did.
Yeah.
That you maybe had to be of a certain class, of a certain background to be able to access that as a profession, right? But the more I got into it and the more I met people that were similar to me, who spoke similarly to me, I thought this could really be a path for me that I could do. And then from there, I've trained in London at Rose Bruford College, so I trained as an actor there and lived in London for a number of years doing acting jobs and things. If I didn't have that initial people believing in me in those early stages, there would have been a real danger that path would have just been shut off for me. And I guess the more I go into my career as an actor, I've now been doing it for sort of, just over 10 years. I kind of think about that. I think about how many people are held back on the basis of their postcode over where they're from, that perhaps they're not from a bigger city. Like in example, in Scotland, we're talking Glasgow, we're talking Edinburgh, who have a real culture tradition for theatre, for film and television work. But how many people just don't make that extra step because there's no mechanisms, there's no support network for them to get that kickstart in their careers, and how many just like don't get exposed to that experience. And I'm not talking that people need to have careers in it, but there's so many interpersonal skills that are hugely beneficial from getting involved in the arts, and the things I've learned and the people that have believed in me, I kind of want to give back to others and allow them to start that journey as well.
And I do agree with you on the point that often there can be a bit of discrimination, or this idea that if you are regional and you don't fit a certain box that they want you to be in, that your chances of success are lower. And I hope to see that changing a lot more. And I guess it does take people such as yourself who are willing to do that in your local area.
And I think there is that shift starting to happen, right? I mean, don't get me wrong, sort of 5 years ago, I found myself back in Aberdeen due to family circumstances and things, and I met up with a friend in a pub who had also been elsewhere in a bigger city. We both found ourselves back in Aberdeen, and we thought, like, what's changed here since we were kids? Like nothing much, And why has that not changed? Because, well, people get to a certain point of their development and then they move elsewhere. There's an inevitability that they have to move elsewhere. So we made a proper commitment to say, right, we're here for a couple of years, let's start a theatre company. And Aberdeen's first like professional theatre company in the city, like there was an independent theatre company. We made this commitment to do this to allow hopefully a bit of a legacy that other companies will come out of that, and we've just taken that dedication to stay for a while in the city. But I guess since then, you are really seeing these shifts happening, and with this virus as well. I mean, I read a really interesting article about how New York, for instance, is just completely cleared out just now, and when will that come back to what it was? Because all these hubs, all these busy places, the hustle and bustle of cities that had thousands and thousands of people in their city centres, when do we get back to that? And you almost feel there's a shift in power to opening up to all sorts of artists from all sorts of regions, from all sorts of backgrounds now to source work, because those traditional things that have been in place for the industry are starting to crumble a little bit, and there's a bit more freedom for artists. And like, if you can start maybe looking ahead to where the industry might be heading and where things might be going, and you catch the sort of crest of a wave, you could really start something powerful during this time if you are in one of the smaller cities right now, by starting a different project or something like that. And I think it's hard to pull and draw ourselves away from, the traditions of, I'm an actor, I need to wait by the phone for my agent to call me to get an audition, and be in that cycle, almost that our success is perhaps validated by what other people think of our acting, how we are as actors. Or we equate success to, I can only be a successful actor if I get an award, if I get the right agent, if I'm being seen by the right casting directors. That we are sort of projecting our idea of success from what other people are telling us, whereas I don't know, the more I go on in this career, the more I think and I feel like that success is the journey, is the fact that you're able to do something you really love, that you're really passionate about. And you sort of dictate like what success means at the end of the day. It's success for you, you know. And I think success ultimately is feeling happy as well. Like if you can feel happy, you're really, really passionate about the role and the job that you have. So many people out there don't get that experience in life. So many people are searching for that experience, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, and we'll get to this in a bit more detail, but kind of like what you were saying is that right now I can only see here, or when I say I mean, an individual might only see here and go, oh God, in the immediate, there's nothing. But then if you can go, actually, when the storm passes, things will be clear again. Like if you can just visualize ahead to the possibilities of what this whole pandemic could bring up, like you said, is actually the power might fall back into the hands more of the artists and the creators and the performers, because people will need us. People will need us, and you know, they can't. Productions can't really get made without us. No matter how good our technology gets, I refuse to believe that you can really replace humans.
But on top of that, as well, Amy, it's the need for human beings to hear stories told about us. The need to reflect on our situations will never disappear, will never go. Right? How that is presented and how that is performed, well, who's to say the how can be flexible, right? But the need for it will never ever go away, you know. And I heard this sort of great quote, and I'm paraphrasing, but it's this idea that if you take a forest, right, that forests, they need storms to happen because it blows away all the weak and old trees and stuff. Otherwise, all the weak and old trees sort of overgrow the forest, right? And of course, there are real people behind this situation in our industry that are, you know, in really bad situations because of what's happening, right? And I'm not belittling that whatsoever, but from it's as you're saying, from looking at the bigger picture here, looking past the immediate, well, these things that get blown away by this sort of situation, it's maybe no coincidence. It's maybe just accelerated that process. It's maybe made it happen quicker than it was going to happen, right?
Yes.
But a lot of things are going to be blown away, and that there's a lot of opportunities that can sort of rise up from it, you know. So I get asked quite a lot just now, what can I do as an actor, right? I've got a lot of time on my hands right now. What can I be doing right now? My agent's maybe not calling them as much auditions and stuff like that. And I mean, my first thing I say is skill acquisition, right? Dive into, you know, as much as you can in terms of books. There's a ton of useful stuff on YouTube. Like you can literally watch 3-hour classes on Uta Hagen from Uta Hagen herself on YouTube. Like there's just tons and tons of stuff out there. But also within that, it is breaking away from the conventions that people are used to, right? Of, you know, waiting for these auditions to happen. And actually, I think the strongest thing right now is this is a beautiful time to start those projects that you've been really excited about for years that you've never had the chance to do it, right? And I guess the only person that's been stopping you doing these projects is you and your belief in yourself. And like, I went to drama school, and believe me, that's not the be all and end all to being trained as an actor going to drama school, by the way. One of the most successful people that I went to drama school with wasn't anybody that's went down the conventional route of getting an agent and, you know, going to auditions and stuff. It was a guy called Dave Hearn, who was part of The Play That Goes Wrong. It's been on Broadway. They've had television shows, West End. That stemmed from a group of friends who just decided to make this commitment to each other. And I remember them flying outside the toilets at our drama school, being like, "You want to come and see our show tonight?" This was where that started. Really, really humble beginnings, right? And they stuck with it for a number of years. And look at how successful that's been. You know, like it's just amazing. You know. And everybody at our drama school at the time, all the lecturers were saying, "You're putting too much time into your own projects. You're putting too much time into it." But actually, that's been the thing that's been the most beneficial for them. And I really think there's power in just being like, "Do you know what? I believe in what we're doing." If you have a group of people and you can identify each individual strength of what you can apply to that project, and you really believe in it, what will inevitably happen over time if you believe in it and you believe it in the value it can offer others, is that it will inevitably attract attention, right? Like people will start to snowball, build momentum. And of course, as you go on, you'll get better and better at it. And I think really believing in a project, an idea that you have, just isn't something that people go far enough with. They maybe stop on the first script that they've written, the first draft or something, or the first couple of meetings that they have about a sketch show or whatever it is. But really diving deep and committing could be a really strong thing. And also just one more thing that I've been talking to people about as well is looking at where the industry is going. I get a lot of things like, how can I get on TV? How can I get on film? And I always think like, I almost think if you take 20 years time, the television and film industry, where it's going to be at, I think it's going to be in a hugely different place.
Oh yeah.
And I always refer back, when I talk about this, refer back to a story about the early 20th century and moving pictures, right? Is starting to become successful, right? Starting to become a thing. And there are these little 5-minute short films that are being shown at like carnivals and stuff, right? And it's kind of like a frivolous attraction, right? Something that you go at the local carnival or something, people go and watch this moving picture for 5 minutes, like, oh great, the picture was moving or whatever. And there was one man called Adolf Ziegler, who was like the founder of Paramount Pictures. And he starts seeing these little boxes appearing at carnivals. He thinks, there's huge potential in this. I'm going to make the first ever feature film, right? So he goes to get money from a load of people and says, I want to make the first hour-and-a-half long moving picture. And people are like, nobody will want to see that. Nobody wants to see that, you know? He says, well, I'm doing it. So he gets his money, he founds Paramount Pictures, and cinema is born, right? And cinema takes over for the rest of the 20th century from there on in, right? We're now in the 21st century. YouTube was born in 2005. And of course, right now we're getting these little 5-minute videos to start with, you know, these little fun, frivolous things. People are equating it to, it's just something that kids are into, you know, but actually, I really see the way that TV and film's going. More people are going to streaming sites, more people are watching YouTube, certainly kids are anyway. Like, I think YouTube is going to be this place for that people go for their entertainment eventually. And if you can get in early on that wave, if you can get in early into that whilst it's still very accessible, I think there's real gains to be had. I think that we're just at the cusp of the potential of the YouTube platform. And like, I don't think that's something that a lot of actors look into and think about as well, that they could be putting projects up there and like you're doing and like I'm doing just now, you know, like sharing our skills, sharing our expertise. And I think there's huge potential in that as well. So sorry, it was very long-winded, but
no, it's fascinating. It's great.
It's just an idea of how people can start looking outside the box, trying to see where the patterns of things might be going in this industry and thinking, well, I'll give that a go rather than standing still, which I think is the worst thing you can do, standing still and waiting.
Yeah.
Like, why not try something? Why not just try and jump into something right now? And hey, you might make connections, you might make a friendship or something like that will get you on the next step of your career anyway. So
yeah, and there's a couple of things I want to say, and it was such an interesting thing you've said there. And there's 2 points, and one was the sticking with the project and not knowing. And again, what came to my mind when you were saying that was like, you know, you think about your Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and Fleabag was an Edinburgh Fringe. That's what I love about that festival, because so many great things can come out of it. But Edinburgh Fringe was a one-woman, I think it was like 45-minute thing, and now it's become this smash hit on BBC. Ricky Gervais is someone I'm very, very fond of. And again, that's a story of a guy who didn't come from formal training. 10 years in a boring job inspires this show, which becomes The Office. And then it's just snowballed from there. And that was him, you know, just creating something. And these were people that didn't necessarily come from fame or money to begin with, but they've just gone, oh, I've got this nugget of an idea, and I'll just sort of see where it goes, and then blows up into this massive thing. And then the other thing you were saying about motion picture, once upon a time that was not a thing, and that was also something, like you said, that people were like, oh, no one's going to be interested in that. So it does give you a sense of hope of, well, where's the next sort of evolution here? And I guess that's what you've said is a lovely reminder to people that despite everything that's going on now, you know, we have had turbulent times in the past, wars and things, and difficult times, and we've managed to pick ourselves up, and the industry has continued on in one form or another, taking a different shape or evolving in one way. So I guess it's just getting people to believe that just holding on and persevering will get them somewhere, as opposed to, like you said, the standing still.
And I guess just jumping on what you said there is like a lot of the messages that I've been getting through the Unstoppable Acting Studio just now is all about the end goal, the destination, right? The accomplishment. How do I get to get a job? How do I get to get an agent? How do I get to this, right? But for me, if you're in this industry, like if you want those things, if you want to sort of be famous and all that stuff, I'm like, go and do something else. Go on a reality TV show or something and take the shortcut way. Yeah. Because in this industry, in the acting industry, there are no shortcuts, and you've got to love the journey. I always say that to people: love the journey, not the destination, right? Because going back to the people you brought up there, Phoebe Waller-Bridge and Ricky Gervais, they see Phoebe Waller-Bridge, the person who writes for James Bond, who has this award-winning TV show. they see Ricky Gervais, the guy who hosts, I can't remember which award show it is.
Golden Globes.
Golden Globes, and rips into all these A-list celebrities and
Yeah.
they're big people. But what they don't see is all the boring stuff, all the tedious things that they've had to do to get there. What they don't see as well is the rejection that these people will have had to face as well. Like, there's not one successful person out there that hasn't had to face some kind of rejection, you know? And I think people are very quick to feel they get rejected a couple of times and, oh, well, that's not for me, you know? And I think you've just got to be so tenacious with your vision of what you want to do, but kind of be flexible in how you get there. You know, like it's not going to be everything laid out for you, like a perfect roadmap. You go from point A to B to C to D. You maybe have to go to point W to get back to C to then get to the end of the
yeah,
end
it's
of
a
the map.
zigzag. Yeah,
and it's a journey. You know, you've got to love this. You've got to genuinely love, you know, just everything about this, I think, to stay in it long term.
Just getting back to, I just want to tie together, you mentioned your theatre company 10 feet tall. Again, I'd like to know a bit more about how that came about, and also in light of what you've just said, do you have a sense of where you think that might go post-COVID?
It's a really good question. Like, as a theatre company right now, we're completely having to adapt and change the game of how we're going to present ourselves as a theatre company. And we stemmed from this idea of, right, to give you a setup, because I think there will be parallels to cities around the world that are probably like this, right?
Right.
That we have a lovely theatre that, you know, puts on musicals that are maybe touring from the West End and stuff. We have quite a thriving amateur dramatics scene, which, yeah, again, there's a place for both those things, but what we don't really have is an alternative style of theatre, you know, like it's a very formal feeling, right? You have to go into the theatre, sit in a darkened room for hours on end, and be talked at, you know, like that you are very much sort of watching and observing a performance taking place, you know?
Right.
And that's been the cycle in Aberdeen for years and years and years and years. So what we saw was there's real excitement for music and gigs in Aberdeen, right? There's real excitement for art projects, and we have this wonderful sort of street art based project called New Art, and people are so excited about that. But theatre just seems like it's just stuck in its ways and quite old fashioned, yeah?
Right.
So when we started this company, we were very, very passionate about the fact that we wanted to get theatre out to non-conventional venues, places that maybe people didn't usually see theatre. And we wanted to go beyond the theatre loving crowd, you know, like obviously people come to see our shows and stuff because they like theatre.
Sure.
But we actually wanted people that had never seen shows in their life come to see theatre, you know, or only went to see a pantomime at Christmas time, coming in to realise the power of what theatre can do in terms of being able to reflect on your immediate situation, you know. So we made a big deal that we're going to use unconventional spaces. So we've used, it doesn't sound that unconventional in a bigger city, but in Aberdeen we used pubs. So we got this partnership with Brewdog going on, because Brewdog, I don't know if you know the beer Brewdog.
I do. And again, actually, while we're talking about Ricky Gervais, he has gotten Brewdog to partner with some dog companies for homeless dogs to try and get them adopted. So yeah, no, I do know about them. They're doing great work.
Yeah, I've seen that video actually.
Yeah.
And those are two guys from the northeast of Scotland as well that started their sort of mixed company and stuff. But they sort of welcomed us into their facilities, and it was really nice because of their rebellious spirit. We felt like we were putting on sort of quite rebellious theatre. And in some of the spaces they have in Aberdeen, it's like these grungy sort of basement spaces. So we did some Chekhov comedy shorts. That was like the first thing we ever did, and it felt like totally like old Russia in there, like the way we set it up and stuff. And people were getting an experience like they were part of it. They got welcomed by the actors as they came in and stuff, and like people went just not feeling like they'd seen a show, but they were part of a world, right? And I guess if you take that sort of secret cinema model, like that goes on down in London, like that's kind of what we want to be doing with the theatre company, is giving people a whole world rather than it just being, oh, that play, that was quite interesting. That was like interesting stuff that they said, that they feel they've been part of something, you know, like, because I really feel like almost in theatre, and I'm specifically speaking about theatre right now, you almost have to justify why people are leaving their homes to come to see it, right? Because why aren't they just watching Netflix or a screen or something? And you need to give them this distinctly intimate human experience. You really need to envelop them and wrap them in the whole thing, I believe. So yeah, we're at a crossroads as a company just now in terms of, well, we do perform at quite small, intimate audiences anyway. So can we get away with this social distancing sort of thing that will start creeping up in these sort of small outdoor performances? Or do we want to really challenge the ideas of what theatre can be? So we've started to talk about, is there ways we can integrate technology like VR and stuff into what we're doing? And if where the world seems to be going is more and more insular, and people are in their own individual screens, all day long, that they're quite shut off from the human experience. They're quite shut off from communicating with other humans. We thought, well, it might be a really interesting thing to explore, is this sort of very individual theatre performance that maybe makes you feel like, actually, I'm craving to be part of the collective again, that maybe they don't necessarily go through a nice experience through this VR technology thing. So I don't know, we're all at the idea stage just now, but we're thinking of some interesting ways to present stuff.
And you know what, Adam, I am looking for an excuse to visit Scotland again. So when you get that up and running, I am there, because that sounds awesome.
We can do some real searching on your lineage and find out where the Coutts actually started from as well.
I guess the challenge that I've seen in things that I've read is that worry about having groups of people in close proximity for, an hour to 2 hours. Which is what people are trying to navigate. But as you said, that could allow for a lot more creativity in terms of, if you do have people in their own space, you could actually physically space them and say, here's your circle, and you're experiencing this, and the performers could be in a certain spot.
And I guess within that, we are quite lucky, right, in that we're quite nomadic in our existence, that we don't have a home, right? We don't have a venue, that we have the overheads to keep up. And a lot of theatre companies and theatres right now, they do have that reality. They have a massive building that they need to sort of keep afloat, and the staff that's associated to that building and stuff, which is actually not having a home and starting off with this philosophy that we can move to different places and stuff does keep us quite flexible and nimble to whatever things throw at us. And we're in the situation where we don't really feel in this survival mode right now. We feel like, we can sort of take the situation that's been laid out in front of us and be like, right, how do we capitalize on this and make opportunity from this? And I think anybody starting a theatre company should sort of seriously think about that, is limiting your, obviously you need attachments to certain venues, to certain companies in terms of funding opportunities and stuff, 100%. But just leaving yourself a bit open as to the path that you can tread, as to the venues you can use and stuff is a strength, I'd say, just being a producer of a theatre company right now, I'd say.
Yeah, the ability to sort of, think outside the box and possibly create a style of theatre that people go, like really, outdoor theatre and a lot more street theatre could really, and given if people have been in their homes and been inside walls for so many months, that idea of being out in an open air space, has an extra appeal, I would imagine, to be able to consume art and content, but not be inside because you've been inside for so long.
Definitely. And just a little caveat to that, I don't think the future of theatre is on Zoom, like from my experience. Like, people have been trying our best and stuff, but it's
I take your point on that, and I think as much as it is a possibility for people to access performance, long term, I don't know. I think people are still going to want to crave that live, in the moment, I'm right there, quite similar to experiencing, a music gig as well, as that you could listen to the recording and it's great, but then to see your concert or your band in concert, it adds sort of an aliveness and electricity that a recording can't really add.
And we're social beings, right? We crave that. Like, that is just something that's naturally ingrained in us from like prehistoric times, right? We need this to reach out to people and have these collective experiences. And it was maybe used to be done through religion or what have you, sort of hundreds of years ago. The arts and live events are sort of like our platform for that sort of thing. And it's really interesting because this is probably the first time ever in human history, right? Albeit it's been 5 months of it where we haven't had those collective experiences in big rooms, arenas, wherever. And like, I just think it's really got a place for human beings. Like, we need it 100%.
I think I'm confident enough to say to people, even on social media, like, just be patient, because there will be a place there. These things will come back bigger and better, not necessarily in capacity to begin with, but people are going to want what they've missed out on, I think, in a more profound way. Because when something's taken away from you, I think you realize how much you love it and miss it. And I wonder, I'd love for someone to track this, in their analysis, but obviously streaming services would be quite high at the moment in terms of access. But I'd be curious to see post-COVID, how much that might drop when people can access things again and get out and enjoy those things. Well, Adam, your enthusiasm and your attitude to all of this is very inspiring to me. I'm just curious, for actors out there who are not feeling the way you're feeling despite your advice, like, what are the things that you do, or what have you done
during your career to kind of keep up the motivation, and anytime you've had setbacks, like how have you been able to mitigate that? Like what are your coping strategies or your tips for people?
Yeah, that's a great question, Amy. And I guess there is that thing, right? There's huge potential of people listening to that first part of the conversation from like, oh, that's all well and good, sort of this positive sort of, mindset that this guy's trying to spread out there, but I've got this in my situation right now, or I've got this going on, or I've got this problem, or I've got that. And I can only say, like, yeah, I've got to this place from being very intentional and being very aware of my own well-being and looking after myself and things first and foremost, that I've managed to get to this point in this place, and I think actors are in quite a unique position in terms of, it's all heavily reliant on you being your own business, and within that there's huge pressure on, am I doing enough, or not being able to sort of commit to the situation as much as you'd like to, and we put huge pressures on ourselves, and it's so hard to know when to switch off. If you're in a job, well, your finishing time is your finishing time, but kind of like when you're in this industry, it is never ending, right? Edit your showreel, film something for your showreel, practice a speech, like go to a skills workshop on Zoom. Like it can just be never ending. You can feel really overwhelmed, and especially when you're not getting these like end results from things, especially when you're not catching a break. You just feel so frustrated and down. And I guess the real shift for me, because I've been there, I've been in that place several times, I'm sure you have as well, Amy, throughout our careers. Yeah, like the major turning point for me was the day that I realized, and this is the sort of mantra, saying I always have in my head, right, that it's better to be a person who's an actor than an actor who's occasionally a person, right? Because for a long time, certainly at the start of my career, I was just an actor. I was showing up to events, going in with the mindset of like, I'm an actor and I need to meet this person because I need to get on this casting director's radar. Or like, I need to go into this audition and absolutely smash it because right now I really need this job because that's what I'm living in London for right now, and that's what I need to do. And it wasn't until I started to remove myself from that and actually start to flesh myself out a little bit more and sort of begin to fill in some sort of hollow parts in the balance of my entire being, my entire person, that I started to really reevaluate the situation, and actually opportunities started to come to me a lot more, because I wasn't coming from this place of desperation. I wasn't coming from this place of frustration or comparing myself to others. I was just happy with me and what I could offer. And I believed much more in what I could offer in this industry, and I felt a lot more secure in it. And if I didn't get a job, then I was happy. I was happy for that other person because that's something that didn't belong to me. It belonged to somebody else. It would be the equivalent of seeing somebody's house and being like, I want that house. That's my house. But you don't live in that house. You haven't bought that house. Like, it's nothing to do with you, right? You've got to accept that's somebody else's house and be happy for where you live. I think it's the same with acting roles. You've got to be happy for the other people that get it, like genuinely happy, and know that you don't know the time span when your opportunities, when your things will come up, but you've got to be happy enough of the belief that one day it will come. You just don't know when it will happen. So I guess, looking more holistically at what I could be doing as a person, because if you break it down to the real basics, right, Amy, it's like we have three instruments as an actor, right? Our imagination, our voice, and our body. Now, I know from experience that I was an actor that didn't necessarily look after those things, that I was neglecting those things and then expecting myself to be the best actor that I could be when I was showing up for auditions and preparing for stuff. Like I was maybe missing out and lacking on essential things that my body, my voice, my body, my mind sort of needed, right? And I'm talking basic things that I think actors just completely overlook, like the benefits of sleep, right? It maybe seems like a real basic thing, but the moment that I started, like I read a book, Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker.
Oh, really, fabulous book.
You know that one?
Yeah, I know the one. I've watched his talk as well. I'm a big advocate for sleep. I've done like a lot of study on it. Yeah.
It blew my mind just how essential it was. And like once I read that book, I've honestly like made sleep a priority, right? More than anything else. I try and get this 7-8 hours sleep a night because, I mean, you'll probably be a lot more fluent in the benefits than I am, but like, it's even as paramount as the shorter you sleep, the shorter your life is, really, like in the grand scheme of things, right?
His book is in some ways is a little bit alarming, but in a real wake-up call way. Oh yeah, absolutely. You go, oh my God, like, if people really knew what the sleep deprivation was doing to them.
Yeah. And just how much it resets our mind and resets our body. I was surprised. I put a tweet out the other day just saying, look at your lines before you go to bed and then look at them first thing in the morning, and you'll be able to learn them much better. And I was surprised just how much people were commenting below being like, yes, I do this already, I do this. And I don't know how conscious they are that they have been doing that, because it's before sleep and your mind sort of drinks it in a lot more and stuff like that. But that's been a really effective strategy for me, is if I've got an audition coming up within like 24 hours, look at my lines before I go to bed. When I get up in the morning, it just sticks in my mind a lot more. But it's like it's an intentional thing in terms of it's just bleeding into your brain a lot more. Your brain's making connections and processing, and like you just wake up feeling so much more refreshed and being the best you can be. Next, thinking of the body as well. Like, I think as actors, we're very self-destructive, and we can be very self-destructive, and we can get in stressful situations, and we maybe don't pay as much attention to our nutrition as we can. I'm not saying that you have to be an angel with what you put in your body, but there is a lot of substance abuse in this industry. There is a lot
Absolutely.
of drinking goes on, and the more I took a step back from that, well, your fellow countryman actually, Hugh Jackman, he says that like he never goes to parties after a performance because he's had enough of a party on the stage. That's what he says. And I'm not saying that you never have to.
Huey. Yeah.
You gotta love Hugh. He's a lovely guy, isn't he?
Yes.
I don't know, but you get that impression. I'd never say never go to a party, of course not. But
right.
I think just like looking after yourself, finding times to move your body, finding times to just be like, right, I'm being intentional about what I'm putting in my body this week. Like, I feel your energy levels and your mindset and stuff will be a lot clearer. You'll just come at things with a lot more clarity, right? Like, and yeah, again, it's no coincidence. And it just seems simple stuff, but like, I think these are the things that you just need to start looking at, right? Have love for yourself at the end of the day. And I think there is this danger, right, of like, there's a certain attractiveness to these tragic characters that you're like your Oliver Reeds or your Peter O'Toole's, or like that people maybe get attracted to that. They feel like that in order to be an actor, you maybe have to have this sort of self-destructive side or something like that. And of course, you can go down that path. I'm just saying from my experience, like it's a lot easier when you take a step back from that element, So finding times to do things that you love, like we just don't allow for that, like because we're too busy. We've got to be doing whatever, like prepare a show reel or whatever it might be, a self-tape or anything like that, but like actually just being like, no, this is a priority right now because this is key to my happiness. I need to find time to do this thing that I really love, whether that is seeing your family, going on a walk, not identifying yourself as just an actor. Because I have a lot of friends now, they're maybe at a stage in their lives where they're like, they've done it for so long and they've hit it so hard for so long that now they're just feeling sort of trapped. They feel that that's the only thing that they can do in life. If you can find some way to have some financial stability with this as well, and dedicate some time to looking at a sustainable side hustle, that's not reliant on other people, that you don't have to rely on. In the age of the internet, there's tons and tons of ways to make money online and stuff.
Well, Adam, this has been such a wonderful conversation. I could keep talking to you for hours, but I know you've got a meeting to get to and I've got things to do too. So here is your moment, sir, to tell people where you are and what you can offer them.
Definitely. No, I'm bad at this, but I need to work on this part. But yeah, so if you're interested in continuing to connect with the kind of ideas and thoughts of what I've shared, I share a lot more about acting-based technique, I guess, on my platforms rather than the mindset thing. So it's been really great to have this conversation with you today, Amy. I think it's a hugely valuable thing that people need to talk about a lot more. So well done for you. I think you're doing a great thing here.
Thank you.
If you'd like to follow any of my social media stuff, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, all at Unstoppable Acting Studio. And yeah, really interested to connect with as many people from around the world as possible who are maybe coming from those unconventional backgrounds in acting and just need that bit of advice, bit of help and stuff. And yeah, just there to sort of help everyone on that next step in their careers. Really come along, say hi.
Fantastic. And don't worry, Adam, I will also share all your handles so people can find you. Right. Well, thank you so much for your time, Adam. I'm incredibly grateful, and I look forward to seeing your Unstoppable Acting Studio community grow and coming to see 10 Feet Tall doing some VR stuff.
Mate, book that plane over. Yeah, we'll get you reacquainted with the Coutts roots. I'll let you meet all the Couttses in the area. We'll do that. Oh, my long lost family.
Fantastic. Thank you, and thank you so much, everybody, for watching. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you so much for watching this, and if you'd like to see more videos in this series, please remember to subscribe to Why This.